The adobe walls of the Carter mansion rose like ramparts against the endless New Mexico sky, their burnt orange surfaces glowing in the harsh afternoon sun. Inside, 24-year-old Rhea Kane stood before her bedroom window, her fingers pressed against the cool glass as she watched dust devils dance across the plaza of Santa Fe. Beyond the carefully manicured courtyard with its imported roses and hedges, beyond the iron gates that separated privilege from poverty, the wild territory stretched endlessly, a landscape of sage and sandstone and impossible freedom that called to something restless within her. She had lived her entire life within these walls, surrounded by luxuries that would make most frontier families weep with envy. Oriental silks draped the furniture. Chinese porcelain graced the mantelpiece. Crystal chandeliers hauled across the Santa Fe Trail at enormous expense caught the light and threw rainbows across whitewashed walls. Her father, Boone Carter, was one of the most prosperous merchants in the territory, and he had built this fortress of civilization in the heart of the wild frontier. But to Rhea it felt like a prison made of gold. "Miss Rhea, your father requests your presence in the parlor." Sienna, the housekeeper who had cared for Rhea since childhood, spoke softly from the doorway. Her weathered face held sympathy. She knew what awaited downstairs. Rhea's throat tightened. "Is he here?" "Mr. Zeke Thorne arrived an hour ago. Your father has been entertaining him with brandy and business talk." Sienna moved closer, lowering her voice. "Mija, if you're going to do something foolish, do it soon. Once the announcement is made, there will be no escape." The words hung in the air like smoke. Rhea turned to look at the woman who had been more mother to her than her own, who had died bringing her into the world. Sienna's dark eyes held understanding and something else. Encouragement, perhaps. Permission. "How did you know?" Rhea whispered. "I've been packing your things at night for 2 weeks, haven't I? Small items, things you could carry." Sienna's lips curved in the barest smile. "I was young once. I remember what it feels like to be sold like livestock to the highest bidder." Tears pricked Rhea's eyes. "If I go, father will be furious with you." "Let him be furious. I'm old and tired, and I've saved enough to return to my sister in Albuquerque. Some things are worth the risk." She pressed something into Rhea's hand, a small leather pouch that clinked with the weight of coins. "From my savings, for when you need it." "Sienna, I can't." "You can and you will. Now go downstairs before they come looking. And Mija, be brave. The world beyond these walls is hard, but it's honest. Better to face honest hardship than comfortable lies." The parlor suffocated with the weight of masculine certainty and expensive tobacco. Boone Carter stood beside the marble fireplace, his silver-streaked beard freshly trimmed. His posture radiated the confidence of a man who had never been told no. Beside him, perched on the edge of a velvet settee, like a vulture eyeing carrion, sat Zeke Thorne. He was 43 years old, nearly twice Rhea's age, with thinning hair carefully arranged to hide his balding pate and a stomach that strained against his waistcoat. His eyes, small and colorless, as river stones, tracked Rhea's entrance with the same calculating expression he probably used when evaluating merchandise. "Rhea, darling," her father's voice was warm honey over steel. "Mr. Thorne has traveled all the way from St. Louis to speak with you. Please sit." Rhea lowered herself into a chair, arranging her skirts with practiced grace. Every movement was calculated, controlled a lifetime of training in how to be the perfect daughter, the perfect ornament. She folded her hands in her lap and waited. Zeke cleared his throat. "Miss Kane, your father and I have reached an agreement that will benefit both our commercial enterprises considerably. My trading company in St. Louis has exclusive contracts with several Eastern manufacturers. While your father controls the southern routes into Mexico, together, we would create the most profitable trading network in the territories." He paused as if waiting for applause. When none came, he continued. "As part of this merger, I have asked your father for your hand in marriage. He has graciously consented, and I have come to formalize our engagement. The words landed like stones in still water. Our engagement? As if she had already agreed, as if her consent was merely a formality, a polite fiction to be observed before the real business was concluded. Rhea looked at her father. And do I have a say in this matter? Boone smiled tight and almost imperceptibly. Rhea, Mr. Thorne is a respected businessman. This union would secure both families' positions and ensure your future comfort. What could there possibly be to object to? Everything she wanted to scream. The fact that Zeke looked at her like an asset to be acquired. The fact that he hadn't asked a single question about her interests, her thoughts, her dreams. The fact that her entire future was being decided in a conversation about shipping routes and profit margins. But the words wouldn't come. They tangled in her throat, choked by years of conditioning, by the weight of expectation, by the knowledge that good daughters didn't cause scenes or make demands. May I have some time to think? Her voice barely rose above a whisper. Zeke Thorne's expression flicked with annoyance before settling back into practiced charm. Of course, my dear. Though I'm not sure what there is to consider. I can offer you a fine home in St. Louis, entry into the best society, every luxury a woman could desire. I'm sure you can. Rhea Kane's hands clenched in her lap nails, digging into her palms. Nevertheless, I would like time to think, she replied, surprising herself with her boldness. Her father's jaw tightened. Rhea, 1 week. She interrupted him, surprising even herself. Surely you can grant me 1 week to contemplate such an important decision. The two men exchanged glances, a conversation conducted in looks and subtle gestures. Finally, Boone Carter nodded. Very well, 1 week. But Rhea, I expect you to approach this decision with the seriousness it deserves. This is an exceptional opportunity. I understand perfectly, Father. She understood all right. She understood that she was being sold, bartered, traded, like a bolt of fine silk or a crate of whiskey. She understood that her father saw her not as a person, but as a final business asset to be leveraged for maximum advantage. Most importantly, she understood that she had 1 week to escape. That night, Rhea lay awake long after the household had settled into sleep. The moon cast silver shadows across her room, illuminating the small trunk she had hidden beneath her bed. Sienna had helped her pack it over the past week with practical clothing, sturdy boots, and essential supplies. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would mark her as Boone Carter's daughter. Just the basics a woman would need to survive on the frontier. She had money too. Not just Sienna's gift, but her own savings accumulated over the years. Birthday gifts from relatives, small allowances her father had given her for frivolous purchases. The proceeds from embroidery she had sold anonymously through Sienna's connections. Individually, the amounts had seemed insignificant. Together, they represented possibility, but possibility required action, and action required a plan. She had heard whispers in the market. The conversations between merchants and wagon masters, a new wagon train was forming. Families seeking homesteads in the outer territories, away from the increasingly crowded settlements around Santa Fe. They were to depart in 3 days, heading east into the wildlands where the Apache still hunted, and the army's reach was tenuous at best. It was dangerous. It was reckless. It was possibly the most foolish thing she could do. It was also her only chance. The next morning, Rhea pleaded a headache and remained in her room. Sienna brought her breakfast on a tray, along with whispered intelligence gathered from the market. The wagon train leaves at dawn, day after tomorrow. Sienna murmured as she poured tea. They're gathering at the old stockade outside town. The wagon master is a man named Gus Holt, fair, but stern. He won't ask too many questions if you have coin and can pull your weight. How do I approach him? Tonight after dark. I've arranged for my nephew to guide you. He'll take you through the back streets where your father's associates won't see. Sienna's hands trembled slightly as she set down the teapot. Are you certain, Meeker? Once you do this, there's no going back. Rhea thought about Zeke Thorne's cold eyes appraising her. She thought about a lifetime of managed appearances and strategic social calls. She thought about growing old in a comfortable cage, never knowing what might have been. I'm certain. The hours crawled by with agonizing slowness. Rhea spent the day pretending to rest, pretending to consider her decision while her heart hammered a rhythm of anticipation and terror. At dinner, she forced herself to eat, to make conversation, to play the role of dutiful daughter one final time. Her father spoke of the wedding he was planning. A spring ceremony would be lovely. Perhaps we could host it here, invite all the prominent families. It would be an excellent opportunity to showcase our alliance with the Thorne interests. Rhea nodded, murmured agreement, and pushed food around her plate. Across the table, her father smiled, satisfied that she was coming around to his way of thinking. He had no idea that his daughter was already gone, that the young woman sitting before him was just a ghost waiting to disappear. After dinner, Rhea retired to her room early. She changed into the simple traveling dress Sienna had procured. Nothing like the fine gowns in her wardrobe, but sturdy and practical. She pinned her hair in a simple bun, donned a plain shawl. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Good. That was the point. At midnight, Sienna's nephew, a quiet young man named Luke, appeared at her window. Together they lowered her trunk to the ground, then Rhea climbed out into the cool night air. Her hands shook as she took her first steps away from the only home she had ever known. They moved through Santa Fe's back streets, like shadows avoiding the main plaza where her father's business associates gathered to smoke and discuss commerce. The town slept around them, unaware that Rhea Kane was walking out of her old life and into an uncertain future. The stockade loomed against the starlit sky, a rough wooden fortress on the edge of civilization. Wagons clustered within its walls, families making final preparations for departure. Rhea could see children sleeping in wagon beds, women packing supplies, men checking harnesses and wheel rims by lamplight. Luke led her to a weathered man who stood apart from the others, studying a map by the light of a small fire. "Mr. Gus Holt, I bring someone who wishes to join your train." Gus Holt looked up, his face deeply lined by years of sun and wind. His eyes, sharp as a hawk's, assessed Rhea in one comprehensive glance. "A woman alone, where's your husband, your father?" The lie came easier than Rhea had expected. "Dead, sir. Both lost to fever last winter. I'm traveling to Lincoln County to join my aunt's family." She met his gaze steadily, willing him to believe her. Gus studied her for a long moment. In that silence, Rhea's future hung suspended. Accept or reject freedom or capture. Finally, he nodded slowly. "I won't ask questions if you can pay your share and follow the rules. $40 for passage, another $10 for a place in the supply wagon, since you've got no team of your own. Can you do woman's work, cooking, mending, helping with the children?" "Yes, sir." "Can you shoot?" Rhea hesitated. Her father had taught her to shoot clay targets, thinking it an amusing parlor trick. "I'm learning." "You'll learn faster on the trail or you'll die. Simple as that." Gus Holt held out a calloused hand. $50 and you follow my orders without question. We leave at dawn. Be ready." Rhea counted out the coins with trembling fingers. When Gus's hand closed around them, something inside her loosened. She had done it. She had actually done it. "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me yet. Wait until you see what you've gotten yourself into." But Gus Holt's stern expression softened slightly. "Are you running from something, girl?" "Towards something," Rhea corrected softly. "Sleep. Dawn comes early and the trail doesn't care about your tender sensibilities." Luke helped her settle her trunk in the supply wagon, then clasped her hand briefly. "Vaya con Dios, señorita. May you find what you're seeking." "Thank you. Please tell Sienna." Rhea's voice caught. "Tell her I'll never forget her kindness." Then he was gone, melting back into the darkness, and Rhea was alone with her decision. She found a space near one of the wagons and wrapped herself in a blanket. But sleep wouldn't come. Her mind raced with the enormity of what she had done. By morning, her father would discover her absence. He would be furious. He might send men to find her. But by then she would be gone, swallowed by the vast territory that stretched endlessly beyond Santa Fe's carefully controlled borders. Dawn broke cold and clear, painting the eastern sky in shades of rose and gold. Around Rhea, the camp stirred to life, families emerging from wagons, fires being lit, coffee brewing. The air filled with the sounds of preparation harnesses, jingling oxen lowing, children's voices high and excited. Gus Holt's shout cut through the noise. "Mount up, we're moving out." The wagons lurched into motion, wheels creaking as they rolled through the stockade gates. Rhea sat in the back of the supply wagon, watching Santa Fe recede behind them. Somewhere in that cluster of adobe buildings, her father was probably just waking, probably wondering why Sienna hadn't brought his daughter's breakfast tray. Soon he would know. Soon the whole town would know that Rhea Kane had vanished in the night like smoke, but by then she would be miles away, rolling toward a horizon she had only dreamed of reaching. As the sun climbed higher and the wagons found their rhythm, Rhea felt something unfamiliar unfurling in her chest. It took her a moment to identify the sensation: freedom. For the first time in her life, Rhea Kane was free. The wagon train consisted of 7 families, each with their own reasons for seeking new lives in the outer territories. Rhea quickly learned their names and stories during the long hours of travel. There was Gus Holt, the wagon master, a widower whose wife and children had died of cholera 5 years prior. He had been leading wagon trains ever since, finding purpose in guiding others toward their dreams, even though his own had died. The Patterson family husband, William, wife Sarah, and 3 young children were farmers seeking fertile land away from the increasingly crowded settlements. They were kind people, quick to include Rhea in their evening meals and conversations. Young newlyweds, Peter and Ann Hartley, dreamed of starting a ranch raising horses in the wild country where land was still cheap and plentiful. Their optimism was infectious, their love for each other evident in every shared glance. The widow May Stroud traveled with her 2 teenage sons, hoping to join her brother, who had established a homestead near Fort Stanton. She was sharp-tongued, and practical qualities Rhea quickly came to admire. The Miller family, 4 brothers with their wives and children, were seasoned frontiersmen seeking new hunting grounds and opportunities in the fur trade. And then there was Rhea Kane, alone among families, carrying secrets she dared not share. The first days were the hardest. Rhea's soft hands blistered from helping with the teams and gathering firewood. Her back ached from the constant jostling of the wagon and sleeping on hard ground. Her face burned from sun exposure no bonnet could fully prevent. But with each mile that separated her from Santa Fe, she felt something fundamental shift inside her. The discomfort was real, but it was honest. The work was hard, but it was hers. She was choosing this life, these hardships, this uncertain future. And choice, she discovered, made all the difference. The land transformed around them as they traveled. The mountains gave way to high desert, vast expanses of sage and grassland interrupted by mesas that glowed red and gold in the changing light. The sky seemed impossibly large, stretching from horizon to horizon without obstacle. At night, the stars were so thick they looked like scattered diamonds on black velvet. It was the most beautiful thing Rhea had ever seen. May Stroud taught her practical skills during the long days of travel: how to judge when meat was cooked through, how to make bread from the limited supplies, how to mend tears in heavy canvas and leather, how to conserve water in a country where it was scarce. "You're learning quickly," May observed one evening as they prepared dinner together. "For someone who claims to have lived on a farm, you sure had tender hands when you started." Rhea's heart skipped, but she kept her voice casual. "My aunt ran the household. I did more indoor work than outdoor." May studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Well, you're doing fine now. That's what matters on the trail. Not where you came from, but whether you can handle where you're going." Tessie Blackwood was more direct. One afternoon, as they walked beside the wagons, to give the team a rest, she said bluntly, "You're running from something. I've seen enough runaways in my time to recognize the signs." Rhea's step faltered. "I don't know what you mean." "Course you don't." Tessie's expression was knowing but not unkind. "I won't pry. Whatever you're running from, it must be bad enough to risk dying out here. Just remember, the trail doesn't care about your past. It only cares about what you can contribute today. Keep pulling your weight, and your secrets are your own." It was as close to acceptance as Rhea could hope for. She nodded, grateful beyond words. They had been traveling for 16 days when they reached Miller's trading post, a rough collection of buildings huddled at the edge of Apache territory. It was a place where civilization and wilderness collided, where merchants and hunters rubbed shoulders with soldiers and scouts, and where, when peace-held Apache traders came to exchange goods. "We'll rest here 3 days," Gus Holt announced as they made camp within sight of the trading post. "Restock supplies, repair any wagon damage. The next stretch is harder, less water, rougher country. Anyone having second thoughts about continuing, now's the time to turn back." No one turned back. They had all come too far, risked too much, and wanted their new lives too desperately. That first evening, Rhea volunteered to help May Stroud sort through medicinal herbs at one of the trading post's outdoor stalls. The post was busy with activity. Trappers selling furs, merchants haggling over prices, soldiers on leave spending their pay on whiskey and tobacco. It was noisy and chaotic and completely fascinating. Rhea was examining a bundle of sage when she felt a sudden hush rippling through the crowd. Conversations quieted. People turned, hands moved subtly toward weapons. 4 Apache warriors rode in from the east, emerging from the desert like spirits made flesh. They sat their horses with casual grace, moving as one with their animals. They were here to trade. That much was clear from the bundles secured behind their saddles: furs and hides, medicinal plants, carefully crafted items. But their presence changed the atmosphere. Settlers watched them with barely concealed suspicion. Merchants approached cautiously, ready to trade but wary of offense. It was a dance everyone knew, delicate and dangerous in equal measure. The warrior in the lead dismounted with fluid economy of motion. He was tall, unusual for Apache, who tended toward compact builds with a lean, powerful frame that spoke of a life lived entirely outdoors. His hair fell past his shoulders, held back by a strip of cloth. He wore traditional clothing, but with touches that spoke of contact with the white world. A shirt made from traded calico, a knife with a forged steel blade. But it was his face that held Rhea transfixed. Strong features, high cheekbones, a mouth that looked like it rarely smiled, and eyes dark as midnight, sharp as obsidian, that seemed to miss nothing. When those eyes met hers across the dusty space between them, Rhea Kane felt the world stop. It lasted only a heartbeat, perhaps less. But in that infinitesimal moment, something passed between them. Recognition, though they had never met. Understanding, though they spoke different languages. A connection that defied explanation, transcending the boundaries of culture and circumstance. She saw him truly, not as the settlers saw him, as a threat or a curiosity, but as a man with intelligence burning in his eyes, with pride in the set of his shoulders, with a fierce independence in every line of his body. And somehow, impossibly, she knew he saw her the same way. Not as a white woman, not as a settler, but as a person. Someone real. Someone who understood what it meant to want freedom more than safety. Then he turned away, breaking the connection, and Rhea could breathe again. "Who is he?" she whispered to May Stroud, who had frozen beside her. "That's Talon." May's voice was hushed, awed. "They say he's one of the most skilled warriors in the territory. They say he's never been captured, never been defeated. The soldiers have tried, lost, good men trying. The traders respect him because he keeps his word, but everyone fears him too. He answers to no one, follows no rules but his own." Rhea watched as Talon moved among the traders, his 3 companions flanking him. He negotiated with calm authority, accepting fair deals and walking away from poor ones without apparent concern. There was dignity in his bearing, a self-possession that commanded respect even from those who hated his people. She should have been afraid. Everything she had heard about the Apache, the raids, the violence, the fierce resistance to settlement, should have made her frightened of this man. Instead, she felt drawn to him like iron to a lodestone. Over the next 2 days, Talon returned to the trading post. Each time, Rhea found excuses to be nearby. She told herself it was curiosity, nothing more. She told herself she was simply interested in learning about the Apache and understanding the people whose land they were crossing. But the truth was simpler and more complicated. She couldn't stop looking at him. On the 3rd evening, their last night at the trading post before the wagon train continued its journey, Rhea went to draw water from the well at the edge of the settlement. The sun was beginning its descent, painting the western sky in shades of copper and crimson. The air was cooling rapidly, as it always did in the high desert, and she wrapped her shawl more tightly around her shoulders. She was alone, or thought she was. The families were back at camp, preparing evening meals and settling children for the night. The trading post was quiet, winding down for the day. She didn't hear him approach. His movements were too quiet for that, but she felt his presence like a change in the air, like the pressure drop before a storm. When she turned, Talon stood 10 feet away, watching her with those dark, penetrating eyes. In the dying light, his features were all sharp angles and shadows, beautiful in their severity. Rhea's heart hammered against her ribs, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. To not look away, to not show fear she didn't feel. "You are not like the others," he said in English. His accent thick, but his meaning clear. "You do not look at me with fear or hatred. Why?" The question was direct, unadorned by social niceties. It demanded honesty. "Perhaps," Rhea said carefully, "because I know what it's like to be judged before being known." Something flickered in his expression, surprise perhaps, or recognition. He took a step closer. "You run from something." It wasn't a question, but Rhea answered anyway. "From a life that wasn't mine to live." "And you run toward—" "I don't know yet." She surprised herself with the admission. "Freedom, maybe. The chance to choose my own path." Talon studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "Freedom is not found in running. It is found in standing where you choose to stand and refusing to be moved." "Is that what you do?" "Every day of my life." His lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but close. "My people call me stubborn. Difficult. I do not bend to the will of others, not the white men who want my land, not even my own people when they counsel compromise. I stand where I choose to stand." "That sounds lonely." "It is." The admission was stark, undefended. "But it is honest. Better to be alone and true than surrounded by people while living a lie." Rhea's throat tightened. He understood. Somehow this Apache warrior understood exactly what she had run from, what she sought. "I should go," she said, though she made no move to leave. "My people will wonder where I am." "They are not your people." Talon's observation was gentle but absolute. "You travel with them, but you do not belong to them any more than you belong to whoever you ran from." "Then where do I belong?" "That," Talon said softly, "is what you must discover." They stood in the gathering darkness, separated by 10 feet and 1,000 unbridgeable differences. Culture, language, experience. And yet Rhea Kane felt closer to this stranger than she had to anyone in Santa Fe's carefully controlled society. When Talon finally turned to leave, he paused and looked back. "The path your wagon train follows is dangerous. There are men, white men, Mexican men, men of my own people who would harm those who travel it. Be careful. Be watchful." "Are you warning me?" "I am telling you to survive." His eyes held hers. "I would be displeased if you did not." Then he was gone, melting into the twilight like smoke. and Rhea was left standing by the well, her heart racing and her mind whirling. That night, she lay awake in her bedroll, staring at the stars. Tomorrow the wagon train would leave, traveling deeper into the territory. She should be thinking about the journey ahead, about building a new life wherever they finally settled. Instead, all she could think about was the way Talon had looked at her, as if she was something rare and precious, as if she mattered, as if he saw the person she truly was beneath all the layers of propriety and pretense she had worn for so long. Around her, the camp settled into sleep, familiar sounds of families together, children murmuring in their dreams, adults talking quietly. It was comfortable, safe, ordinary. But Rhea found herself longing for something else entirely. Something wild and dangerous. And impossible, something she couldn't name but recognized nonetheless in the dark eyes of an Apache warrior who had looked at her and seen not a white woman, not a settler, not a merchant's daughter, but simply her. Sleep, when it finally came, was troubled by dreams of vast distances and impossible choices. The wagon train departed at dawn, groaning and creaking its way eastward into increasingly rugged country. Rhea sat beside May Stroud in one of the middle wagons, watching Miller's trading post disappear behind them. With each rotation of the wheels, she told herself she was doing the right thing, moving forward, leaving complications behind. But her chest felt hollow, weighted with something she couldn't name or wouldn't name. She hadn't seen Talon that morning. She had looked, heaven help her, she had looked, scanning the few figures visible near the trading post as they pulled away. But he wasn't there. Of course he wasn't. He had no reason to watch one woman among many. The conversation had been nothing. A few words at a well, it meant nothing. So why did it feel like she was leaving something vital behind? "You're awful quiet this morning," May observed expertly, guiding the oxen around a rocky patch. "Feeling poorly. Just tired," Rhea lied. "Didn't sleep well. None of us did. Something about that place. All those eyes watching, all that tension. I'll sleep better when we're deeper into empty country." May paused, then added carefully, "Did something happen? I saw you talking to that Apache yesterday evening." But Rhea's heart skipped. "He was just warning me about the dangers of the trail." "Was he now?" May's tone was carefully neutral. "And did his warning seem friendly or threatening?" "Friendly, I think, or at least not threatening." Rhea tried to sound casual. "He spoke good English. They say Talon spent time with some missionaries when he was young, learned their language before he rejected everything else they tried to teach him." May shook her head. "Can't blame him, I suppose. We take their land and then wonder why they fight back." It was the most sympathetic statement Rhea had heard any settler make about the Apache. It gave her courage to ask, "Do you think they're as dangerous as people say?" "Some are, some aren't. Same as white folks, I reckon." May glanced at Rhea. "But that one Talon, he's different. They say he's never harmed anyone who didn't threaten him. First, never broken a trade agreement. But cross him, threaten what's his, and he's merciless. That's why the soldiers can't catch him. He's smart enough to avoid unnecessary fights, but fierce enough to win the necessary ones." The descriptions settled into Rhea's chest, filling the hollow space with something warm and dangerous. The days blurred together in a rhythm of travel. Wake at dawn, break camp, roll through the day with brief stops to rest. The animals make camp at dusk, sleep and repeat. The landscape transformed around them, growing progressively more dramatic. Red rock formations rose like ancient monuments, canyons cut deep into the earth, their walls striped with layers of geological time. Juniper and pinyon pine clung to impossible slopes. It was beautiful and harsh and utterly unforgiving. Rhea learned quickly, or suffered the consequences. She learned to conserve water, to protect her skin from the relentless sun, to move efficiently rather than gracefully. Her hands grew calloused. Her body grew stronger. The soft merchant's daughter from Santa Fe was being worn away, revealing someone harder and more capable beneath someone who might actually survive out here. They had been traveling for 4 days, since leaving the trading post when they made camp near a creek that cut through a shallow canyon. The water was clear and cold, fed by snowmelt from the distant mountains. Gus Holt declared they would rest there for a day. The animals needed recovery, and one of the wagons had developed a wheel problem that required attention. That evening, Rhea Kane volunteered to fetch water for the cooking. She took 2 wooden buckets and walked upstream away from where the animals were being watered and the children were playing. The sun was beginning its descent, painting the canyon walls in shades of amber and rose. Birds called from the cottonwoods that lined the creek, and somewhere in the distance a coyote sang its lonely song. She was kneeling by the water's edge, filling the second bucket, when every instinct she had suddenly screamed danger. She froze, her hand still in the cold water. She didn't know what had alerted her, some primitive awareness that predates language. Perhaps a change in air pressure, a shadow where there shouldn't be one, the sudden silence of birds. "Do not be afraid." The voice came from behind her, deep, accented, familiar. Rhea's heart hammered as she turned slowly. Talon stood on the opposite bank of the creek, as still as the rocks around him. In the golden light, he looked like something out of legend, a spirit of the desert made flesh. He had been there for some time, she realized, watching, waiting. "You followed us?" It wasn't a question. "Yes." Talon crossed the creek in 3 long strides, water splashing around his moccasins. "I have been following since you left the trading post." "Why?" He stopped a few feet from her, close enough that she could see the intensity burning in his eyes. "Because I cannot let you go." The words hung between them, raw and undefended. Rhea's breath caught. She should have been afraid alone with a man she barely knew, a warrior, whose reputation preceded him, far from the safety of the wagon train. She should have screamed, called for help, run. Instead, she stood her ground and asked, "What do you mean?" "I mean that from the moment I saw you, I knew." Talon's hands flexed at his sides as if he was fighting the urge to reach for her. "I have lived 29 winters. I have seen many women, white and Apache both. I have lain with some, enjoyed their company, and walked away without regret. But you?" He paused, jaw tightening. "You I cannot walk away from." Rhea's mouth went dry. "You don't know me." "I know enough." When he moved closer, his movements deliberate, giving her time to retreat if she chose. She didn't. "I know you have courage. To leave what you knew for what you hoped to find. I know you see with clear eyes, not clouded by the lies others tell about my people. I know that when you looked at me, you saw a man, not a savage, not a threat, just a man." He was close enough now that she could feel the heat radiating from his body, could smell sage and leather, and something wild that had no name. "I know," he continued, his voice dropping lower, "that you feel this thing between us, this pull, this knowing. You felt it too when our eyes met. Do not deny it." Rhea's heart was hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. "I'm traveling with the wagon train. We're going to—" Talon interrupted it. "To some settlement where you will try to build a life among strangers, where you will work yourself to exhaustion, trying to fit into yet another life that does not fit you." His hand lifted, hovering near her face but not quite touching, giving her the choice. "You ran from a cage in Santa Fe. Why run into another cage? What are you suggesting?" But she knew. Heaven help her, she knew. "Come with me." The words landed like thunder. Simple, impossible, world-changing. "I can't," Rhea whispered, even as every fiber of her being screamed the opposite. "I don't know you. I don't know your world." "You did not know the world you were traveling to, either," Talon pointed out with inexorable logic. "At least with me you would be choosing. Not running, not hiding, choosing." His hand finally made contact, fingers gentle as they traced the line of her jaw. Rhea's breath caught her eyes, closing briefly at the sensation. "I want you," Talon said, And there was no artifice and there was no practiced seduction, just raw, unvarnished truth. From the moment I saw you, I knew. My people have customs courtships that take time. But I am not a man who waits when I know with certainty what I want. And I know I want you as my woman, as my wife, as my partner in this life. This is madness, Rhea breathed, but she didn't pull away from his touch. Yes. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. The best kind. And he leaned closer, his forehead almost touching hers. I felt it when our eyes met. I felt that you wanted me as I want you. I see the battle in your eyes. The fear fighting with desire. Propriety. Fighting with truth. But your body does not lie, Rhea. Rhea Kane's heart hammered in her chest. He knew her name. Somehow, he had learned her name, and he was right. Heaven help her. He was right. Every moment since that first glance had been torture, wanting something she thought she couldn't have, shouldn't have. Fighting against a pull as undeniable as gravity, as inevitable as sunrise. Tell me, Talon murmured, his breath warm against her skin. His other hand came up to cradle her face, tilting it toward his. Tell me I am wrong. Tell me you do not feel this thing between us, and I will leave. I will let you go with your wagon train, and you will never see me again. I will accept your rejection and live with it. His thumb stroked her cheekbones. The gesture was so tender it made her throat ache. But if I am right, if you feel even a portion of what I feel, then come with me. Choose this. Choose us. Choose a life where you answer to no one but yourself and the man who would walk through fire for you. Rhea opened her mouth to say no, to be sensible, to be practical, to be the well-bred woman her father had raised, who understood that attraction wasn't enough, that passion faded, that rational choices led to stable lives. But the lie wouldn't come. Standing here in the fading light, with this warrior's hands gentle on her face and his eyes burning with fierce certainty, all her careful rationalizations crumbled to dust. You're not wrong, she whispered. The words had barely left her lips when Talon's control shattered. His arms came around her, pulling her against him with a possessiveness that should have frightened her, but instead made her feel claimed in a way she never had before. Safe, desired, chosen all at once. His hand cradled the back of her head, tilting her face up to his. You are mine, he said, and it wasn't a question or a request. It was a statement of fact, as certain as the stones beneath their feet, as undeniable as the sky above. And I am yours. From this moment forward, there is no other path for either of us. Then he kissed her. It was nothing like the chaste peck Zeke Thorne had stolen at their engagement. This was fire and hunger and claiming. It was possession and surrender and promise all at once. Talon kissed her like he was starving and she was sustenance, like he was drowning and she was air. Rhea's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, answering his passion with her own. She had never been kissed like this. Never known that a kiss could unmake and remake a person simultaneously. She had never known her body could respond like this. Every nerve alive, every sense heightened, every doubt burned away in the heat of this impossible connection. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Talon pressed his forehead to hers. Come with me, he said again, his voice rough. Be my wife. Live as my people live. Free under the sky, answerable to no one but ourselves and the land. Reality crashed back. They'll come looking for me. The wagon train will report you missing, perhaps taken. By the time anyone investigates, we will be far from here. My people know places where no one can follow, places the white man cannot find. His hands framed her face. I will keep you safe. I swear it on my life. Your people. Fear crept in around the edges of desire. Will they accept me? My sister will. She is married to one of our warriors. She will teach you our ways. She will be your friend. Talon's expression softened. And my mother Guya, she is fierce. Yes, she will test you, but she will also see what I see, that you are strong, that you belong. I don't speak your language. I don't know how to survive in the wilderness. I can barely start a fire without— You will learn, Talon interrupted with absolute confidence. I will teach you. We will teach you. You learn to leave your father's house and join this wagon train. You learn to work and travel and survive. You will learn this too, because you choose to learn it. Rhea pulled back just enough to look into his eyes. Why? Why me? You could have any Apache women who already know your ways, because you are not afraid of choosing your own path, even when the path is dangerous, Talon said fiercely. Because you look at me and see who I am, not what others think I should be. Because when I saw you, my heart, which has been wild and unclaimed all my life, suddenly knew where it belonged. He kissed her again, softer this time, sweeter. When he pulled back, his eyes held both passion and something deeper, something that looked like reverence. I am not a man who speaks false words. Among my people, I am known for my honesty, even when truth is harsh. So believe me when I say you are the only woman I have ever wanted to keep. You are the only future I can see. It was insane. It was reckless. It was everything she had run from Santa Fe to find. Yes, Rhea heard herself say. Yes, the smile that broke across Talon's face transformed him from fierce warrior to something younger, lighter, almost joyful. He kissed her again, then took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. We must move quickly before your absence raises alarm. Take only what you can carry easily. Everything else you will not need. They moved through the gathering darkness with purpose. Talon's horse, a beautiful paint mare, waited in a grove of cottonwoods near the creek, while Rhea Kane retrieved her small trunk from the supply wagon, moving as quietly as possible while the families prepared their evening meals. Talon secured supplies and prepared for their departure with trembling hands. I have found my path, he said quietly. Thank you for your kindness on the journey. Please do not search for me. It wasn't much, but it was all she could offer. An explanation that explained nothing. A farewell that couldn't capture what she felt. When she returned to where Talon waited, he secured her trunk behind the saddle with swift efficiency, then lifted her onto the horse with easy strength. He swung up behind her, his arms coming around to hold the reins, caging her in warmth and security, and the wild scent of sage and leather. Are you afraid? He asked as they began to move, walking the horse quietly away from the camp. Terrified, Rhea admitted, her hands gripping his forearms, where they crossed in front of her, and absolutely certain this is what I want. She felt his smile against her hair. Good. Fear means you understand the weight of what you choose. Certainty means you understand why you choose it. Both are necessary for this life. They rode through the night, heading northeast into country that grew progressively more rugged. Talon moved with the confidence of someone who knew every rock and hollow, every safe path and hidden danger. When Rhea grew tired from the constant alertness, he held her more securely, letting her lean back against his chest. Sleep if you need, he murmured against her ear. I will keep you safe always. And despite everything, the insanities of what she had done, the uncertainty of what lay ahead, the fact that she barely knew this man, who now held her life in his hands, Rhea closed her eyes and slept. She slept and dreamed of freedom. When dawn broke, painting the desert in shades of pink and gold, they stopped to rest near a spring hidden among red rocks. Talon helped Rhea down from the horse, his hands lingering at her waist as if he couldn't quite believe she was real. Welcome to your new life, he said softly, his dark eyes searching her face. Welcome home. Rhea looked around at the wild beauty of the landscape, the towering rocks, the sparse vegetation clinging to life, the vast sky arching overhead. She looked at the man who had claimed her heart with such fierce certainty, who had given her a choice when everyone else in her life had demanded obedience. For the first time since leaving Santa Fe, the hollow feeling in her chest filled with something warm and right. Home, she repeated, testing the word, then more certainly, yes, home. Talon cupped her face in his hands and kissed her with a tenderness that made her throat ache. When he pulled back, his expression held both passion and something deeper. A promise, a vow, a claiming that went both ways. You are mine, he said, and I am yours. This I swear. This I swear. Rhea echoed the words, feeling like ritual, like ceremony, like the beginning of something that would change everything. The sun rose higher, burning away the cool of night. Around them, the desert awakened birds, calling insects, humming the wind, sighing through stone. It was harsh and beautiful and utterly unforgiving. It was perfect. The Apache camp was hidden in a valley that seemed to exist outside of time and geography, protected on three sides by steep canyon walls, striped with layers of red and ochre stone, and on the fourth by a narrow passage that could be easily defended. It was a place the white man's maps didn't show and couldn't find. Wikiup's dome-shaped dwellings made of branches and hides dotted the valley floor, in what appeared to be random arrangement but was actually carefully planned for defense and community. Smoke from cooking fires rose lazily into the morning air. Children played near the creek while women worked on various tasks, their movements efficient and purposeful. Men sat in groups, repairing weapons and tools, some speaking in quiet conversation. As Talon and Rhea rode into camp, activity stopped. Conversations died mid-sentence. Children froze in their games' faces, turned toward them, some curious, some wary, some openly hostile. Rhea's heart hammered as she felt the weight of dozens of eyes assessing her, judging her. She was acutely aware of her pale skin, her foreign features, her complete inability to understand the rapid Apache being spoken around them. An older woman emerged from one of the larger Wikiups, her weathered face sharp with intelligence and undisguised authority. She wore traditional dress, but with the bearing of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Her eyes, dark and penetrating, fixed on Rhea with an expression that made her want to shrink back against Talon's chest. The woman spoke rapidly in Apache, her tone demanding answers. Talon replied in the same language, his voice respectful but firm. The exchange went back and forth several times, growing heated. Finally, Talon switched to English, translating for Rhea. This is Guya, mother of my clan. She asks why I bring a white woman to our camp. Talon spoke softly, his voice steady. I told her you are my wife, that I have claimed you, and you have accepted that you left your people by choice to come with me. Gaia's eyes narrowed. She spoke again, shorter this time, but somehow more cutting. She says you must prove you are worthy. Talon translated, his jaw tight. That pretty faces and soft hands are useless here, that if you wish to stay, you must show you can survive, can contribute, can be more than a burden. Before Rhea Kane could respond, though, what she would have said she had no idea, a younger woman pushed through the gathering crowd. She was beautiful with long dark hair braided down her back and eyes that sparkled with barely contained excitement. She wore a mixture of traditional and traded clothing, and when she spoke to Talon, her tone was teasing, affectionate. Then she turned to Rhea and spoke in clear, accented English. I am Tessie Talon's sister. Welcome to our home. My impossible brother has never brought anyone to camp before. You must be very specials, or very crazy. Perhaps both. Her smile was warm, genuine, and Rhea felt some of the tension in her chest ease. Thank you. I'm Rhea. Rhea. Tessie tested the name, then nodded. I like it. Come, you must be exhausted. You need food, water, rest, and someone to explain what you've gotten yourself into before Goya decides to test you immediately. She linked her arm through Rhea's with easy familiarity, leading her toward one of the Wikiups while speaking rapid Apache to the gathered people. Rhea caught Talon's eye over her shoulder. He nodded once. Trust her. And turned to continue his conversation with Gaia. Tessie's wickiup was warm and surprisingly spacious, with well-organized supplies and comfortable sleeping pallets. She pressed a bowl of water into Rhea's hands and watched her drink before speaking. So you left everything to come here. That is either very brave or very foolish. Tessie tilted her head. Which is it? I don't know yet, Rhea admitted. Ask me again in a month. Tessie laughed, her sound like bells. I like you, you are honest, that is good. Gaia respects honesty above all things. She will test you, yes. She tests everyone, but if you meet her challenges with courage and truth, she will accept you eventually. And if I don't, then life will be very difficult. Tessie's expression grew serious. I will not lie to you, Rhea. You have chosen a hard path. Our ways are not your ways. The work is constant. The life is harsh, and you will be judged by higher standards because you are white. Some will never accept you. Others will watch, waiting for you to fail. That's reassuring, Rhea said dryly. But Tessie continued, her smile returning. You have Talon, and now you have me. And my husband Colt, who is kind, even if he pretends otherwise. We will help you learn. We will stand with you. And if you prove yourself, when you prove yourself, the others will come around. Most of them, anyway. Over the following days and weeks, Rhea discovered that proving herself was not a single test, but a continuous process. Every task was evaluated, every mistake noted, every success measured against higher standards than those applied to Apache women who had been raised to this life. Tessie became her constant teacher and first true friend. She taught Rhea how to identify edible plants from poisonous ones, how to preserve meat by drying and smoking, how to tan hides. Brutal, exhausting work that left Rhea's shoulders screaming and her hands raw. It is hard work, Tessie admitted one afternoon as they scraped a deerskin stretched on a frame. But it is honest work. You work. You see the results. Not like the white world where so much is performance, pretending to be something you are not. Yes, Rhea agreed, her muscles burning. So much pretending. Here you cannot pretend. The desert does not care about your bloodline or your father's wealth. It cares only if you are strong enough to survive, if you are clever enough to adapt, if you are brave enough to stand when others would fall. Tessie paused in her work, studying Rhea. My brother sees that strength in you. I am beginning to see it too. The nights belonged to Talon. After the day's work was done and the camp settled into evening routines, meals shared around fires, stories told children tucked into sleep, he would come to their wickiup. It was larger than most, built on the edge of camp with a view of the stars, a position that spoke of Talon's status as a respected warrior. There, away from watching eyes and judging faces, they discovered each other with a hunger that felt both new and ancient. Talon was patient but passionate, teaching Rhea the language of desire, with the same intensity he brought to everything else. He showed her that pleasure could be given and received, that passion could be fierce and tender, by turns that two bodies could speak truths that words could never capture. In his arms, Rhea found a freedom she had never imagined, the freedom to want without shame, to take without apology, to give without restraint. Every touch was a claiming. Every kiss was a promise. Every joining was a confirmation that she had chosen correctly, that this wild path was hers, and she was strong enough to walk it. You are learning our ways quickly, Talon murmured one night. His fingers traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder as they lay tangled together. Rhea noticed. She does not smile easily, but today I saw approval in her eyes when you helped with the butchering without flinching. I dropped the knife twice and nearly cut myself, Rhea Kane said, her voice dry but content. But you did not quit. You did not cry or complain or expect special treatment. You asked questions and tried again. That is what matters. He kissed her temple. Persistence and courage. These things Goya values above natural skill. Do you think I'll ever truly belong here? Talon rolled onto his side, propping his head on one hand to look down at her. In the dim light filtering through the Wikiup's walls, his features were all planes and shadows, beautiful and fierce. You already belong. You chose this life. You chose me. That is all the belonging anyone needs. But belonging, Rhea was discovering, required more than just choosing. It required proving. The test came 6 weeks after her arrival. A hunting party was being organized to track a herd of deer spotted in the mountains to the west. It was dangerous work. The terrain was treacherous, the weather unpredictable, and there was always the risk of running into soldiers or hostile settlers. I want to go, Rhea said when Talon told her about the hunt. He frowned, his expression protective. It is not necessary. You have already proven yourself with the work here in camp. Have I, or have I just proven I can do the safe tasks under supervision? She met his eyes steadily. I need to do this, Talon. I need to show myself as much as anyone else that I'm not just a white woman, playing at being Apache, that I can truly survive in this world. Talon studied her for a long moment, conflict clear in his expression. Finally he nodded slowly. You will ride with me. Stay close. Follow my lead exactly. And remember, the land is beautiful, but it will kill you without mercy if you make mistakes. I understand. I hope so. He pulled her close, his embrace almost crushing. I did not claim you, just to lose you to foolishness. The hunting party consisted of 8 riders, Talon, Rhea, Tessie, and her husband Colt, and 4 other warriors, including Wyatt, a man who had been openly skeptical of Rhea's presence from the beginning. They left at dawn, riding into country that grew progressively more rugged with each mile. Rhea had learned to ride better in recent weeks, growing comfortable with Talon's paint mare. But this terrain tested even experienced riders. Narrow trails along cliff edges, steep descents into creek beds, treacherous footing, obscured by loose rock and scrub. They tracked the deer for 2 days, moving higher into the mountains where the air grew thin and cold. At night, they made camp without fires too risky in country where army patrols ranged. They ate dried meat and drank cold water, sleeping huddled in blankets against the chill. On the 3rd day, as they closed in on the herd, disaster struck. They were traversing a narrow ledge, the horses moving single file, with the cliff face on one side and a stomach-dropping drop on the other. Rhea was 3rd in line behind Talon and Colt. She was concentrating on keeping the mare calm and steady when the animal's hoof came down on a section of loose rock. The mare screamed a sound of pure terror as the rock gave way beneath her. Rhea felt the sickening sensation of falling, the world tilting impossibly. Her hands clenched on the reins uselessly. The drop yawned below her hundreds of feet to rocks and certain death. Then strong hands grabbed her iron-hard fingers, clamping around her arm, her shoulder yanking her from the saddle with bruising force. She slammed against a solid chest, Talon's arms locking around her like bands of steel as they both teetered on the edge of the crumbling ledge. Behind them, the mare went over with another scream that cut off abruptly when she hit bottom. For a long moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Rhea clung to Talon, her body shaking with delayed shock, her mind unable to process how close she had just come to death. Then Talon spoke, his voice harsh in her ear. Breathe. You are alive. Breathe. Rhea sucked in air, the simple act of breathing, suddenly the most important thing in the world. Around them, the hunting party moved cautiously past the damaged section of trail to more stable ground. When they finally reached safety, Talon set Rhea down, but didn't release her. His hands framed her face, his eyes burning with an intensity that bordered on fury. Never again, you understand. I will not watch you die. I will not survive it. I'm sorry, Rhea whispered. I didn't. It wasn't your fault the rock was loose. It could have happened to anyone. But his jaw was clenched, his body stiff from the lingering terror. But now you ride with me. No arguments. That night, as they set camp in a quiet canyon, Wyatt approached Rhea, his English slow and awkward, clearly uncomfortable. Yesterday, when I said you were a burden, a liability, I was wrong. Today, you didn't panic. You held on. You did what you should. And Talon, he moved faster than I've ever seen because you matter to him. That makes you important to all of us. It was an apology, grudging but sincere. Rhea nodded, accepting his words. Thank you. I know I still have a lot to learn. We all do. Every day the land teaches us. Those who stop learning die. Wyatt paused, then added, You're brave to come here to choose this life. Perhaps foolish, but also brave. I respect that. After he left, Tess settled beside Rhea, handing her a bowl of dried meat and berries. You earned respect today, not because you almost died, but because of how you handled it. No tears, no complaints, no demands to go back to camp. Just courage and acceptance. I was terrified, Rhea admitted. Good. Fear keeps us alive. It's the lack of fear that kills. Tess nudged her shoulder companionably. You're becoming one of us. Rhea. Perhaps you don't see it yet, Tess added, but we do. The next afternoon, they found the deer herd grazing in a high meadow surrounded by pines. The hunt was quick and efficient. Each hunter knew their role without need for words. Rhea watched in awe as the Apache moved with seamless coordination, taking only what they needed without waste or cruelty, honoring the animals that gave their lives to feed the people. As they butchered the kills, Tess worked alongside Rhea, teaching her the proper techniques. Each part has purpose, Tess explained. Meat for food, hide for clothing and shelter, sinew for thread and bowstrings, bones for tools and needles, hooves for glue. Even the blood has use. Nothing is wasted. This is respect. It's so different from Santa Fe, Rhea said, carefully cutting where Tess indicated. Their meat came wrapped in paper from the butcher. I never thought about the animal, the life that was taken. Here you can't forget. You honor it by using everything. That's why we survive when others don't. We understand that all life is connected. Take only what you need. Use everything you take. Give thanks for what is given. Tess paused. This is one of the first lessons Apache children learn. You're learning it as an adult, which is harder. But you are learning. That evening, as the hunting party made camp with their spoils of meat and hides, Rhea noticed a change in the way the warriors treated her. Nothing obvious, just small gestures of inclusion. A space made for her at the fire. A water skin passed to her first. Nosh showing her how to properly secure a load on a horse, making sure she understood. The acknowledgement was clear. She had earned her place in the hunt, had faced danger without faltering. She had proven she was more than just a soft white woman playing at Apache life. When they returned to the camp 3 days later, Gaia was waiting. She watched how the hunting party treated Rhea, noting the respect even Wyatt showed her. That night, the clan mother visited Talon's wiki, up a visit that was both an honor and a statement. She spoke in Apache, her voice formal and ceremonial. Talon translated his own voice thick with emotion. She says you have proven yourself worthy, that you have the heart of a warrior. Even if you were not born to this life, she welcomes you as a true daughter of this people, not as Talon's white woman, but as Rhea who chose strength over comfort, truth over lies, freedom over safety. Tears pricked Rhea's eyes. It was more than acceptance. It was belonging, real. Belonging earned through trial and courage, given freely by a people who valued truth above all. Thank her, Rhea said, her voice rough. Tell her I will try every day to be worthy of this gift, that I will learn, grow, and contribute for as long as I am allowed to stay. Gaia listened to the translation, then stepped forward, doing something unexpected. She clasped Rhea's shoulder in the warrior's grip of respect. When she left, the weight of her approval lingered, spreading through the camp like ripples on water. Later, alone in their wiki-up, Talon pulled Rhea into his arms and held her as though she were something infinitely precious. "I knew," he whispered against her hair. "From that first moment at the trading post, I knew you would be exactly this. Strong, brave, perfect. Mine." Ours, Rhea corrected, thinking of Tess's friendship, of Goya's hard-won respect, of the camp that was becoming home. "We belong to each other, but also to this place, these people." "Yes." Talon kissed her slow and deep, full of promise. "Ours." Outside, the camp settled into the sounds of evening children's laughter, fading to sleep, adults talking quietly around the fires, the distant cry of a coyote greeting the rising moon. Inside, Talon and Rhea rediscovered what it meant to belong to each other, to this life, to a future they were building together with courage, choice, and love. The stars wheeled overhead, ancient and indifferent. The desert winds sang their lonely song, and in a hidden valley where two worlds met, a woman who had run from everything she knew found everything she had been seeking. 3 months after Rhea Kane's arrival at the Apache camp, autumn painted the high desert in shades of gold and crimson. The air grew crisp at night, carrying hints of the harsh winter to come. It was a season of preparation, gathering food, curing hides, repairing shelters against the cold months ahead. It was also the season when Rhea's past caught up with her. The first warning came from scouts who ranged far from the valley, keeping watch for threats. They reported increased soldier activity in the region. Patrols ranging farther than usual, asking questions at trading posts and settlements. Then came more specific intelligence. A bounty hunter was traveling through the territory, showing a photograph and asking about a white woman who might be living with the Apache. The photograph, the scout said, showed a young woman in fine clothes, her hair elaborately styled, her expression carefully composed. It showed Rhea as she had been in Santa Fe. The merchant's daughter, the gilded captive, the woman who no longer existed. "Your father is searching," Talon said grimly, after a council meeting with the clan leaders. His expression was dark with barely contained rage. "He has hired men to find you," offered money for information. "The bounty hunters show your picture at every trading post, every settlement, every place where white and Apache worlds meet." Rhea's blood ran cold. She had known this might happen, had hoped the vast wilderness would swallow her trail completely. But Boone Carter was a determined man, accustomed to controlling everything in his sphere. His daughter's defection was a wound to his pride, a challenge to his authority. Of course he would search. Of course he would spend whatever necessary to reclaim his property. "What do we do?" She kept her voice steady through force of will. Talon called a council Gaia. The senior warriors, Tessie and her husband Colt. The discussion was entirely in Apache, but Tessie quietly translated the key points for Rhea. Some argued for moving camp immediately, heading deeper into the mountains, where no white man could follow, where the trails were known only to the people. Others pointed out that running would only buy time, not safety. Eventually, one of the elders, a man named Flint, who had seen 70 winters, suggested a different approach. "They want proof the woman exists, or proof she is dead," Tessie translated his words. "We could provide proof of death, false proof, let them think she was killed, so they stopped searching." It was risky. If discovered, the deception could bring reprisals against the entire band. But if successful, it would end Boone Carter's search permanently. After much debate with Gaia's support, they agreed to try. The plan required careful execution. They chose a location 3 days' ride from camp, close enough to where Rhea had been traveling with the wagon train that the story would be believable, remote enough that no one would investigate too thoroughly. Talon, Rhea, Tessie, Colt, and 2 other warriors made the journey. They brought with them Rhea's old dress, the elegant thing she had worn from Santa Fe, carefully preserved. Now they tore it to shreds, scattered the pieces among rocks and thorny shrubs. They mixed deer blood with dirt, creating stains that would suggest violence. Talon fired his rifle into a tree at close range, leaving powder burns and splintered wood. They left other signs too, disturbed earth-broken branches. The evidence of struggle that trained eyes would recognize. "This feels like I'm dying," Rhea said, watching them stage the scene. "Like I'm burying who I was." Talon paused in his work to pull her close. "You are not dying. Rhea Kane, the woman, trapped in that old life, she is dying. But you, the woman who chose freedom, who earned her place among us, who has become my heart, you are more alive than ever." They left the evidence where it would eventually be found, then returned to camp. All they could do was wait. Word came 5 weeks later through the informal network of traders and scouts who moved between worlds. The bounty hunters had found the evidence. They had examined the scene, found blood and torn clothing and signs of violence. They had reported back to Boone Carter that his daughter had been killed by hostile Indians, attacked while traveling, her body likely carried off by animals. There was talk of reprisals, of sending soldiers to punish the Apache, but cooler heads prevailed, pointing out the impossibility of determining which band might be responsible, the futility of punishing random natives for crimes that might have been committed by others, the likelihood of escalating violence that would hurt everyone. Eventually, the search ended. Rhea Kane was declared dead, mourned by a father who would never know his daughter had chosen freedom over duty, passion over propriety, authentic life over comfortable imprisonment. "It is finished," Talon said when the final news arrived. His arms came around Rhea from behind, pulling her back against his chest. "You are free, truly free. No one hunts you now. No one can take you from this life you've chosen." Rhea leaned into his warmth, feeling a weight lift from her chest. The weight of the attention she hadn't even known she was carrying. "He thinks I'm dead. The woman he knew is dead. She died the moment you chose to leave. What remains is the woman you chose to become." Talon turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "Does it hurt to know he grieves a daughter who chose to disappear rather than be what he wanted?" Rhea considered the question honestly. "Yes, but not as much as I thought it would. I grieved, too. For the father I wished I had, the one who would have loved me for myself rather than for what I represented to him. But I don't regret my choice. Not for a moment." "Good." Talon kissed her forehead. "Because I am a selfish man, and I could not bear to lose you to regret." That winter was brutal, snow falling heavily in the mountains, temperatures plunging to dangerous lows. The Apache moved to winter camps in the lower valleys, places offering more shelter and easier access to water. Life became focused on survival, keeping the fires burning, rationing food, and protecting the vulnerable. It was during that harsh winter, huddled against the cold, that Rhea realized her body was changing. At first the signs were subtle: an occasional missed period, morning sickness she chalked up to something she ate, and a tenderness in her breasts. But as the weeks passed and the symptoms persisted, realization hit: she was pregnant. The news filled her with a confusing mix of emotions, joy and fear, excitement and worry. A baby would tie her more deeply to this life, make her vulnerable in new ways. But it would also be proof that she truly belonged here, that her choice had been the right one. Tessie noticed before Rhea even said anything. One morning, watching Rhea fight off nausea, she remarked matter-of-factly, "You carry a child." Rhea instinctively placed her hand on her still flat belly. Yes, I think so," she responded, stunned. Tessie's face broke into a wide grin. "This is good. A baby is always a blessing. Talon will be insufferably proud. He'll hover worry and drive you mad with his protectiveness." She was right. When Rhea told him that night, Talon's face transformed with awe and fierce joy. He pulled her into his arms with a gentleness that contradicted his warrior's strength. Holding her, as though she were made of glass. "A child," he murmured, hands spread across her stomach. "Our child, a life we created together, born from the love between us. Are you happy?" Rhea hesitated suddenly, unsure. "It will be difficult. A child in winter with supplies running low." Talon laughed a rich, warm sound. "Happy I am beyond happiness. You've given me everything, your trust, your courage, your heart, your body. Now you give me this too, a future, a family, a reason beyond myself to be strong." His hand stayed on her belly, protective and possessive. "We will welcome this child in spring. When the world is new again, it is fitting. You brought spring to my heart, and now you bring new life to our family." The pregnancy progressed through the bitter winter months. Rhea continued to work as much as her body would allow, determined not to be seen as fragile or useless. The Apache women rallied around her, offering practical advice, sharing remedies for nausea and back pain, teaching her what to expect. Guya visited regularly, bringing special foods and herbs. Through Tessie's translation, Guya said, "A strong mother makes a strong baby. You must eat well. Rest when your body demands it, and prepare your mind for the battle of bringing new life into the world." "Battle?" Rhea asked nervously. Guya's weathered face creased in something like a smile. "All birth is battle. The woman battles pain to bring forth life. The baby battles to enter the world. Both must be strong. You are strong enough. I have seen it." As Rhea's belly grew with life, Talon became even more protective. He hovered constantly, worried when she lifted anything heavier than a water bucket, insisting she stay close to camp when the men went hunting, checking on her multiple times a day. "I'm pregnant, not broken," Rhea protested one afternoon, after he tried to stop her from carrying firewood. "I know," Talon said, softly cupping her face in his hands, his thumb gently stroking her cheek. "But you carry what is most precious to me. My heart beats in your chest. My future grows in your belly. Let me protect you both. It is all I can do." How could she argue with that? So she submitted to his, hovering, touched by the fierce tenderness in every action. Spring came late that year, the mountains reluctant to release their grip on ice and snow. But eventually the world warmed. The snow melted and new life pushed through the thawing earth. Flowers bloomed in impossible abundance: desert paintbrush, lupine, prickly pear, and sage. And with the arrival of spring came Rhea's labor. It began in the early hours of a warm May morning. Sharp pains wrapping around her back and belly like iron bands. Dakea, who had been sleeping nearby for weeks, waiting for this moment, woke immediately. "It's time," she said calmly, then stepped outside to alert the other women. Within moments, Rhea's tipi was filled with experienced mothers, Dakea, Guya, and 3 other women who had delivered many babies. They moved with practiced efficiency, gathering supplies, stoking the fire, helping Rhea into a squatting position that would aid the birth. Talon tried to enter, his face taut with worry. But Guya blocked him, speaking quickly in Apache. "She says this is women's work," Dakea translated, fighting a smile. "You can pace and worry outside like every other father who has ever lived." The labor was long, 16 hours of pain that came in waves, each one stronger than the last. Rhea endured, drawing on strength she didn't know she had. The women coached her through each contraction, offered water words of encouragement, and held her up when she thought she couldn't take any more. "You are strong," Gaia said at one point, her voice steady. "You survived leaving everything you knew. You've earned respect among people who were once strangers. You've chosen hard paths, and you've walked them. This is just another hard path. You will walk this one too." When the baby finally emerged, slick and squalling, perfectly healthy, Rhea wept with relief and overwhelming love. The women quickly cleaned the baby. With practiced hands, wrapped him in soft hide and placed him in Rhea's arms. A boy, strong and healthy, with a full head of dark hair and eyes that would surely be as dark as his father's. He was perfect. He was theirs. Talon was allowed in once everything was settled. He approached slowly, as though in a dream, his fierce warrior's face softened with wonder. When Goya placed the baby in his arms, tears slipped down his cheeks, the first time Rhea had ever seen him cry. "He's perfect." Talon whispered his finger, brushing the baby's tiny hand. "Look at him. Look what we made together." They named him Kai, mischievous one, because from the moment he was born, he seemed determined to make his presence known with lusty cries and flailing fists. He nursed eagerly, slept fitfully, and captured the hearts of everyone in the camp. Even the warriors who had been the most skeptical of Rhea came to offer blessings for the child. Kai wasn't just another baby. He was a bridge between two worlds, a symbol of what could be achieved when love triumphed over fear, courage over convention. The camp celebrated his birth with a feast. Meat roasted over the fire, special foods were prepared, and stories were told around the flickering flames that burned well into the night. Talon held his son close, introducing him to the land and sky that would shape his life. "This is your home," Talon whispered to the sleeping infant. "These are your people. You are Apache born to strength and freedom, but you are also part of your mother's world. You will know both, understand both, and be better for it." Rhea watched her husband with their son, feeling a contentment so deep it almost hurt. This moment, this life was everything she had run from Santa Fe to find, though she hadn't known it at the time. Not just freedom from constraints, but freedom to build something real, something chosen, something hers. The months that followed brought new challenges and new joys. Kai grew quickly, changing from a helpless newborn into a curious infant, studying the world with intense dark eyes. Rhea learned to balance caring for him with the other work that needed to be done, grateful for Dakea's help and the practical support of the other women. Talon was a devoted father, often seen carrying his son in a cradle board, talking to him in Apache about the desert, the mountains, the ways of their people. He taught Kai things no infant could possibly understand, yet how to read the land, how to track game, how to live with honor. "You must know both worlds," Talon said one evening, as they watched the sun set together, Kai sleeping peacefully between them. "Your mother's world and mine. You must understand where you come from, all of where you come from, so you can choose who you wish to become." "Will that be enough?" Rhea asked quietly, voicing a fear that had haunted her since discovering her pregnancy. "The world isn't kind to those who don't fit neatly into one category. He'll be too white for some, too Apache for others. Then we teach him to be proud of exactly who he is," Talon said, his arm wrapping around her shoulders. "To know he comes from courage, yours and mine. To understand that choosing your own path is worth any hardship. We teach him that love is stronger than fear, that truth is more valuable than acceptance, that being free is worth any price." Rhea leaned into her husband's warmth, watching their son sleep. She thought about the woman she had been in Santa Fe, trapped, afraid, living a life designed by someone else. She thought about the terrifying leap of faith she had taken following a warrior into the wilderness. She thought about all she had gained: strength, purpose, belonging, of family. "I'd do it all again," she whispered softly. "Every terrifying, difficult, uncertain moment, every challenge and trial, that's because it led me here, to you, to this." Talon kissed her temple, his lips lingering. "As would I. From the moment I first saw you at the trading post, I knew my life was about to change. I didn't know how much. I didn't know you'd bring such completeness, such joy," he continued. "But I knew you were mine. I knew I had to claim you, or I'd spend my life wondering what could have been." "Ours," Rhea corrected with a smile, referring to the old joke between them. "Ours." Talon agreed, his voice full of warmth, affection, and promise. As darkness settled and stars filled the vast New Mexico sky, the small family sat together. A white woman who had chosen freedom, an Apache warrior who had claimed his heart's desire, and the child who symbolized the future they were building together. In the distance, a coyote sang its lonely song, but here in this moment, none of them were alone. They were exactly where they belonged together, under the infinite sky, living the life they had chosen against all odds and expectations. They were home. 5 years later, the territory around them changed as the years passed. More settlers arrived, pushing further into Apache lands. More soldiers patrolled, attempting to enforce reservation boundaries that made no sense to people who had lived free for generations. The tension between the worlds grew, violence flaring and fading like summer storms. But in their hidden valley, Talon and Rhea built a life that transcended those tensions. Kai Haley grew into a bright, energetic boy who could speak both English and Apache fluently. He could track game with his father and identify healing plants with his mother. He was riding almost before he could walk, his small body fearless on horseback. He was loved by the entire camp, doted on by Guya, taught warrior games by Wyatt, spoiled by his Aunt Tessie. He was also endlessly curious, asking questions about both worlds he straddled. "Why do white people live in boxes?" he asked one day. "Why do they stay in one place all the time?" "Because they believe land can be owned," Rhea explained, helping him practice English. "They think putting fences around Earth makes it theirs." "That's silly," Kai said, his certainty absolute. "How can you own Earth? Earth owns itself." Rhea smiled at his perfect Apache logic. But she also understood that her son would grow up navigating between worlds in ways neither she nor Talon fully could. He would need to understand both to move between them with grace and wisdom. It was a heavy burden for a child who was still learning to tie his own moccasins. Rhea had become so fully integrated into Apache life that occasional traders visiting the camp no longer immediately recognized her as white. Her skin had deepened with the sun, but her hands calloused and strong. She wore traditional clothing, spoke Apache with only a slight accent, and moved through the camp with the confidence of someone who belonged completely. But more than her appearance, she had found something she'd never had in Santa Fe: purpose. She wasn't just Talon's wife or Kai's mother. She was Rhea, healer. Gaia had taught her well. Hunter, though not as skilled as the warriors. Teacher. She taught the children English and numbers. Friend. Contributor. She was a full person, valued for her capabilities and character rather than her bloodline or connections. One evening, as she and Talon watched Kai play with the other children by the creek, she asked, "Do you ever regret it? Claiming a white woman? All the complications it brought?" Talon looked at her as though she had lost her mind. "Regret you? Regret the best decision I ever made? Never. Not for a single moment. Sometimes I think about what your life might have been without me. Simpler perhaps. Less complicated. An Apache wife who understood everything naturally. Children who would never question which world they belonged to. Simpler. Yes, but also emptier. Less joyful. Less alive." Talon turned her to face him, his hands firm on her shoulders. "I was a good warrior before you. Strong, skilled, respected. But I was also alone. I didn't know what I was missing until I saw you. And then I knew I would never be complete without you. You are not a complication, Rhea. You are the answer to a question I didn't know how to ask." His voice softened. "I love you. So much it frightens me sometimes." "Good." Talon smiled, that rare expression that transformed his face. "Love should be a little frightening. It means you understand how precious it is, how much you have to lose. But the fear is worth it for what you gain. For this. For us. For the life we share." As the sun set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples that seemed too vivid to be real, Kai ran back to his parents. His face was alive with happiness, his dark hair wild around his shoulders. Talon scooped him up, tossing him in the air until Kai shrieked with pure delighted laughter. Then he settled the boy on his shoulders. Kai's small hands gripped his father's hair for balance. Watching her husband and son together, Rhea felt that same overwhelming contentment she had the day Kai was born. This was what she had run from Santa Fe to find, though she hadn't known it existed. Not just freedom from the constraints of her old life, but freedom to build something new, real, and entirely her own. She had been hunted by her father's men, claimed by a feared warrior, tested by a harsh land and even harsher people. She had lost her old identity and forged a new one through trial and determination. She learned that strength came not from privilege, but from choosing difficult paths and walking them anyway. And in the end, she had found what so many search for, but few ever discover: a place where she truly belonged. Work that mattered deeply. People who valued her, and of the love that crossed all boundaries of culture and circumstance. The coyotes began their evening song, their voices rising and falling in harmony with the gathering darkness. Talon took Rhea's hand, Kai perched securely on his shoulders, and together they walked back to their camp. Behind them, the camp settled into familiar evening routines, fires being lit for cooking, children being called in from play, adults gathering to share the day's news. It was ordinary and beautiful, dangerous and precious. All at once, it was home. The stars emerged in the darkening sky. Rhea knew with absolute certainty that she would not trade this life for any gilded cage, any comfortable prison, any safe but empty existence back in the world she had fled. She had run from the world that hunted her and found something far better, a world she had chosen, a love she had claimed, and a family that was entirely her own. She had become prey to the territory's most feared Apache warrior, and in his claiming she had found herself. The end. Dear listener, tonight I want to tell you something nobody talks about enough. Falling in love with your own life is the most rebellious thing you can do after 60. The world whispers that your story is written, that the best chapters are behind you. But Rhea teaches us something radical. She didn't find freedom in her youth. She found it the moment she stopped asking permission to want more. Here's what I know about you. You've spent decades taking care of everyone else. You've made sacrifices so quietly that nobody even noticed they were sacrifices. You've swallowed words, postponed dreams, and convinced yourself that someday would come. What if someday is tonight, not someday when you're thinner, richer, or braver? Not someday when the world aligns. Exactly tonight, as you are with your beautiful wrinkles that map every smile and every worry, with your hands that have built entire worlds for others. Talon didn't fall in love with Rhea despite her imperfections. He loved her because she finally had the audacity to choose herself. And that audacity, it made her irresistible, it made her free. You don't need to run away to the desert, but maybe, just maybe, you can start saying yes to the small things that make your soul whisper. Finally, thank you. Close your eyes now. Feel how much life still hums in your chest. You are not finished. You are not forgotten. You are not too late. You are exactly on time for the story only you can write. Sleep wrapped in this truth. Your heart still knows how to be wild. With all our gratitude, the Wild West Lone Hearts. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this incredible journey. If Rhea and Talon's story touched your heart, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment, give it a thumbs up, and share it with someone who still believes in the power of love and freedom. Your support truly, from the bottom of our hearts, keeps us motivated to bring you more stories filled with deep emotion, redemption, and unforgettable turning points. At the end of this video, another story from our channel will appear. Click on it and get ready to be surprised by more emotional tales like this one. Thank you for being here, the Wild West Lone Hearts.